Hello, I'm going to be doing a brief overview of lab equipment today in terms of chemistry lab for those of you going into your high school and college chemistry labs that need a brief summary and review of lab equipment. So we're going to start out with beakers and flasks. And yes, there is a difference. So the main difference is beakers are used to deliver while flasks are used to contain. So beakers are used for careful mixing because they have a lip and they are not used for storage. So this thing right here in the top left, that is a beaker. That's what I am talking about. So they have many different sizes, such as like a 50 milliliter, 100 milliliter, 10 milliliter, but all have straight sides and a flat bottom. And graduated cylinders would be the only type of beaker used to measure volume. So this thing right here, that is a graduated cylinder. And you could take the measurements according to the lines on the side, about get as exact as possible. And beakers are primarily used to deliver liquids. And flasks, there's many different types of flasks. Erlenmeyer flask, that is that thing next to the beaker. Volumetric flask is this thing that I have not circled yet. Distillation flask, round bottom flask. This would be an example of the round bottom flask. Used for storage and to prevent contamination by using a lid, usually a glass or rubber stopper. They are used primarily to contain. Volumetric flasks, by the way, are used at holding, they're best for holding certain volumes, specific volumes. So test tubes, they have a wide variance of ranges from 10 to 20 millimeter wide to 50 to 200 millimeters long, used to handle chemicals, especially for qualitative experiments. So that's when the quality of the chemicals and your results matter more than the actual amount that you are getting. So they are convenient containers when heating small amounts of liquids or solids with the Bunsen burner. So right here up at the top, that would be one of the things that you would use a test tube for. So you're burning a tiny amount of chemical with this test tube right here. And this is a huge test tube. This is a boiling tube in the bottom left. So that's just another type of test tube. And with a stopper, it is often used for temporary storage as well. And this thing is an example of a test tube holder that you would hold the boiling tube with. Bunsen burner is that thing that we just saw back there that we were using to heat the test tube with. So it is an adjustable gas burner that is used in laboratories, and it is ignited by using this striker. So what you do is you push both metal pieces together with your hands and it creates a spark, and basically just strike it over the Bunsen burner and then a flame will appear. Of course, you would have the valves connected to the air and the gas, and it is used to heat. So it could be used to heat a test tube, a beaker, whatever you put over it. So yes, open slots in the side of the tube admit air into the stream. That's how the air would get in. So this tube right here would connect to the gas. Imagine a tube right here, connect to the gas valve, connect to the gas source, and then air would come in kind of on this side. You would twist this thing around depending on how much air you would want in, and that would control the height of the flame. So the amount of air mixed with the gases affects the completeness of the combustion reaction. And Buret's a graduated glass tube with a tap at one end for delivering known volumes of liquid, especially in titrations. So titrations are pretty complicated, not really meant for lab equipment video like this, but basically they are really good at delivering exact amounts of liquid. So see how they have these little nicks, like these are all exact milliliter amounts, and they usually go all the way to 50. Of course, there's different measurements for berets, but whenever I was in lab, like quantitative analysis, we just used 50 millimeter berets all the time, 50 milliliters. And so the flow of the liquid's controlled by this stopcock right here. So if you have it completely vertical like that, it's free to go out. And if you have it completely sideways, it is completely closed. They're usually cleaned with some type of acid because it is very hard to clean these things. Like if something gets stuck on the inside, you clean them with some type of acid. Um, so yeah, it has measurements on the side. Volumetric burette delivers measured volumes of liquid. Okay, yeah, I covered everything. Pipettes are used to transfer a measured volume of liquid as well. So it would be kind of a tinier volume of liquid. Volumetric pipettes measure very exact amounts of liquid. So 100 milliliters, 550 milliliters, 25 milliliters, 10 milliliters, and 5 milliliters. So these are exact amounts that you want to measure. You'll use a volumetric pipette. Micro pipettes, like the ones pictured on the right, they're for very tiny pipettes. Um, Micro pipettes are also Pasteur pipettes, are the plastic or glass pipettes pictured over here. So those are micro pipettes, but they're also Pasteur pipettes, but are not graduated or calibrated for any particular volume. The bulb is separate from the pipette body. Or excuse me, these ones on the right are not micro pipettes. So a crucible is a ceramic or metal container in which metals or other substances may be melted or subjected to very high temperatures. They are handled with very clean tongs. So you would heat a crucible and put a chemical in there that you want to heat, like a solid or whatever, something you want to melt, and you would usually put it like in a circular triangle like that, and clamp it onto a ring stand. That is a ring stand, and put it in a wire triangle. That's also ceramic in the middle, and put it above a Bunsen burner to heat it. So, and also an evaporating dish is used for the evaporating solutions, as it is in the name. So you would produce a concentrated solution with the evaporating dish of a solid precipitate of the dissolved substance, and it is made out of the same material as the crucible. So it would either be made as out of ceramic or metal container. Alright, so spatulas and glass rods. They have very similar purposes in the lab, in which they can both be used for mixing, but glass rods are usually not used for scraping. So spatulas are used to scrape chemicals off inside containers, and they are often used to induce crystallization sometimes. And they also can be used to transfer chemicals from container to container. And they're not used as much to mix as a glass rod. Thermometers, obviously, they measure temperature. There's two important elements: the temperature sensor, which would of course be the mercury, and the means of converting this change into numerical value, which is the scale on the side. So the reason mercury is such a great indicator or a sensor is because it has such a high coefficient of expansion. So the slightest change in temperature is notable when it is used in the thermometer. So funnels, transferring liquids without a funnel is not an easy task. So always use a funnel in the lab if you feel unsure about whether you're going to spill something or not. And syringes are often used in labs to transfer liquids, so they are often very disposable. Clamps, they're used to hold either Erlenmeyer flasks, test tubes, beakers, etc. Usually you would use a test tube holder to hold a test tube though, depending on size. Stands, the clamp usually attaches to the stand, which the stand is this thing I'm outlining in red. So it's the actual part that stands up